Hello, and welcome to this super duper special episode 38 of the Pos-cast with myself and the birthday boy, Rabbi Shmuel Posner. Rabbi, how are you doing on this wonderful and holy day of the week?
Baruch Hashem, fine. It's an hour and 17 minutes into my birthday as we're speaking right now on Monday night, the 28th day of Teves. And for all the Chassidim out there, this coincides with the birthday of the Rebbe's mother, Rebbe Simchana, also on the 28th day of Teves. So you got to be born any day. It's a pretty good day to be born on. Why not?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too shabby.
Yeah. So this is the birthday special, and that's why we're doing it early in the week. Seth was very concerned if we release it a day early, it's going to get people all discombobulated. So I said, don't worry about it. It's okay to have it earlier, but not later, because then people are looking forward to it on Wednesday, and then they get disappointed. So this is the early release. So this is like the beginning. This is the first. Well, it's not the first. I'll tell you, it's the first Fabrengen we're having for my birthday. But I just got off the phone a FaceTime phone call from Vestal, New York, where Rachel and Shea Zalman and their children were there. They went around the table, and they did it proper. They had a little l'chaim with grape juice, said a couple of psukim, gave blessings, and that was a fantastic, wonderful way of starting this new year of mine with my dear children and grandchildren. And of course, before that, I was with Chani. Came home from shul, had a shtickle dinner, very special. Whenever Chani makes, whenever and whatever Chani makes is special. It doesn't have to be a birthday special. It's just special. So here we are. So I was thinking a lot, what I would talk about on my birthday? I can just start bragging about anything under the sun, but I should talk about myself. But who am I? What am I? I'm a product of my parents. I'm a product of my grandparents. So that's really, and I think the overarching influence of everything, of course, is the Rebbe. So we should talk about the Rebbe. And it happens to be, that nothing happens to be, but my grandmother's yard site, my father's, his mother, blessed memory, her yard site was on Sunday, the 26th day of, right, Sunday's 26, Monday's 27, and Tuesday, tonight is going into Tuesday, is my birthday. But my grandmother was 26, and somebody posted a video of her funeral. Now, if you talk about people that were totally immersed in the Rebbe and following the Rebbe's guidance and looking for his leadership and devoting their lives to fulfilling the mission as the Rebbe set it forth, my grandparents are a prime example. They came out of Russia, they were in Israel, they came to the United States, they were in Elizabeth, New Jersey, Linden, New Jersey, Chicago, and finally Pittsburgh. I know one of my cousins is going to see this and say, well, you forgot to say hada hada, whatever. But that was their line, and it was always with the direction of the Rebbe. And we're talking about in the 1930s, 1940s, and after that, until she passed away in 1990. So it was a life filled with guidance from the Rebbe, and it wasn't easy, and it was given guidance to fulfill a mission. So they had to go ahead and fill that mission, and part of that challenge was raising children at the same time. We could talk about that for hours and hours, but I just want to show you this video of my grandmother's funeral. Now, it took place in New York. As you get it up, I'm going to be talking over the sound there a little bit to explain what's going on for the uninitiated. So it starts. So my grandmother was buried in Israel, but her coffin with the hearse with the coffin passed by 770, which is normally people will have their coffin drive by their shul or whatever. So this drove by 770. Do I have control of this? Well, you do. Okay, so this is 770, as you can tell. And the hearse would drive past 770. The Rebbe would come out and walk behind the hearse and across the street. And here, you see, all the Chassidim are going. I would assume that the Rebbe is already out of 770 and walking past, following the hearse. And just see the Chassidim following the hearse as well. And half their interest is to honor the deceased. The other half is to just be with the Rebbe, see where he's going, what he's doing. And this, you see, now if you know Crown Heights at all, we're getting to the corner on Eastern Parkway, crossing Kingston Avenue. And about 20 feet, there's a hearse, and about 20, there's Kingston, there's the corner. You can't see the Rebbe because he's surrounded by half semicircle of Chassidim. But about 20 feet up the corner, that's where the Rebbe is going to stop. Okay, now, and the Rebbe waits there until the funeral procession of the cars that are following the hearse will all pass by. Now, of course, they don't let the cars pass by. Okay, so now open up the street so the cars can pass. The people following the hearse can pass by. And we're going to see something. This now, on the right is my father. In the middle is my grandfather, and on the left is my cousin Shimon, who now is a shliach in Rancho Mirage, California. Now they're walking. You see the Rebbe on the right. The Rebbe secretary, Rabbi Groner, comes over to my father and tells my father that it's a custom of Chabad that the children don't follow the hearse. Okay? So now my father, and so he says, go to his side, and my grandfather wants to continue following the hearse to pass the Rebbe. So now the question is, who's going to step in and hold him, support him from his left side? And I was there because my father was there, so I was right behind my father. Look at the Rebbe's gaze there, intense, amazing. And so if you watch, you'll see now, as my father's, that's my cousin in the car, he's going to drive my grandfather. That's why he's following close by. Okay? And there I'm now on the left of my grandfather. So I am, as we're walking by the Rebbe, you can't see it, but my grandfather turns to the Rebbe just for a moment. And I remember that gaze, that connection of the Rebbe looking at my grandfather. He was very close to my grandfather. And just that moment, I can't even imagine what either one of them was thinking at that time with the history of, 70 years of history. And so now the cars have stopped because my grandfather is getting into the car. So you hear the beeping a little bit in the background. So they're waiting to get, so my grandfather will get into the car. He's older at this time, and you can see he's a little bit frail, so it wasn't an easy task. Once he gets in, then the cars will continue down Kingston, down Eastern Parkway, going to JFK. I went into the car as well. And now here's the Rebbe standing on the street, waiting for the cars to come by. And just in case, since you were all into little Rebbe things, the Rebbe keeps one hand in his pocket and one hand not in his pocket. I don't know, that was just the way he did it. Whenever he walked outside, one hand in the pocket, one hand not. And the Rebbe is waiting for all the cars to pass that are going to follow up to the airport to see, Halvas Hameis accompanying the deceased. So my grandfather and my father did go to Israel, but all of us went to the airport to see them off. And that's Rabbi Groner on the left, the Rebbe's assistant, Rabbi Klein on the right over here, another one of the Rebbe's assistants. And they're looking to see if there's any more cars. And see here some beeping. It seems like there's still somebody coming through. Yes, there is. Let him go. Somebody getting into the car. Everybody's trying to rush as much as they can because they know that the Rebbe is standing there and waiting.
What year is this, Rabbi?
This is 1990. Okay, now here's the incredible thing is about to happen. Rabbi Groner is going to approach the Rebbe. Is there another car coming through? Yeah, a few more cars are coming through. Now Rabbi Groner is telling the Rebbe that the funeral, no more cars are coming. That's why you see the people are coming into the street, once again, to be as close to the Rebbe as they can be. And Rabbi Groner has told the Rebbe that the procession has concluded. The Rebbe is looking down Eastern Parkway as the cars depart. The cameraman will give us a little clue what's going on down there. You see? It's all the way at the end of the block already. It's probably a red light there or something. But you can imagine within a minute or two, there are no more cars. Now, as you see the Rebbe standing there, the Rebbe stood there for approximately 25 minutes. Right there. If you, yeah, do that, yeah. Let it slide. Okay, stop there for a second just so we can see what's going on. So this is what, like 20 minutes into it, and the Rebbe is still standing there. You see, now the whole crowd is completely surrounded behind the Rebbe, and the Rebbe is still standing there looking down the street. It's just a phenomenal thing. I have no idea. Nobody has any idea why the Rebbe stood there that long. And you could see even with the poor quality of the photography back in 1990, you can tell that it's getting dark. And the Rebbe is still just standing there, and all the Chassidim are standing around just waiting. And at some point, I don't know if you'll be able to pick this up, the Rebbe turns around and walks back to 770. Let's see if we can catch that moment. There you go. The Rebbe just turns around and walks back to 770. So, I don't know. It's no explanation, no commentary. Just the fact of what happened there. Pretty incredible thing.
He never, no
No,
one ever asked
nobody
him,
ever
or he
asked.
never
No,
said
nobody ever asked
anything,
the
or
Rebbe why, what was going on, or why he waited there, what he was thinking. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? We can only guess. We have no idea. Anyway,
it's
that's an end
powerful.
of life.
I've never seen the Rebbe like that. I mean, anything I've seen of the Rebbe is photos or very grainy photos at a Farbringen of him dancing. I've never seen him so still or so clear. Like that's the clearest video I've ever seen of him.
Yeah, and it's full length. You can see the Rebbe standing there. Yeah, it's a pretty and even the Rebbe's gaze is such a deep gaze. I mean, again, we can conjecture all we want. We have no idea what the Rebbe is thinking. Why my grandmother, of all people? I mean, obviously my grandparents were very, very close with the Rebbe before he was Rebbe, after he was Rebbe. My grandparents were like pioneers in late 1940s, mid 1940s, early 1940s, whenever it was. Moved to Pittsburgh to a community that, they were strangers there. Not strangers, they were strange. There were no Chassidim there, and started a school. It's just fascinating. And they were both immigrants. Their English was not that great at that time, for sure. My grandfather hardly spoke English, but he communicated. He communicated with his heart and with his soul. So what the Rebbe was doing there, I don't know. Okay, now we're going to move on to a beginning of life event, my birthday, and the letter that the Rebbe sent to my parents, my father, on the occasion of my birth. Now, letters that the Rebbe sent for special occasions, we say, oh, it's a standard letter. Nobody thought it was standard because there's nothing standard from the Rebbe. Like if somebody has a simcha, you say to them Mazel Tov. Is that a standard thing, or is that personally meant? So let's just read it if we can. Peisner, Vineland. Okay, at that time, here's the most solid proof. We were living in Vineland, New Jersey at the time. And it's dated Chaf Tes, Teves, Tashrin Chaf. So the letter was typed out the day after I was born. And it's addressed to, and here's very interesting, Havasig v'chasid Israel Akim, the serious and Hasidic man, Israel Akim, Nechma Noim, these are salutary appellations. Meleches Shemayim, Malachtei Meleches Shemayim Chulu. So sometimes the Rebbe would mention something about what the person does for a living, like if he be a Rav or he be a Sheikhet. Over here he writes 3 words, Malachtei Meleches Shemayim. His work was heavenly work, V'chulu. And writes, of course, his name, which you know well, right? Shalom Uvracha, V'mayna al haydaseh shenoilem ben l'mazel tov. In response to letting me know that you had a son to Mazel Tov, Hine hiratzim Hashem yisbarech shechnisu lebrisei shel Avram Avinu. May it be the will of Hashem that you bring him into the covenant of Avram, our father, patriarch. Ukashem shechnisu lebris ken yichasnu l'tayr l'chup ma'asim tayvim. The same way that you enter him into the covenant, so also you enter into Tayr l'chup ma'asim tayvim. V'yigadei b'yachad m'zugas yitich, and you should raise him with your wife. She should live long. And all of your children with expansive materialism. Brechas Mazel Tov and the Rebbe's signature. So what's unique is that the Rebbe read this letter and signed it. So that was a bracha that the Rebbe gave. The fact that maybe somebody else got exactly the same bracha is completely irrelevant. And I point out how the Rebbe addressed my father and the fact that he included all their children. So that's how my life started. The second day of my life, my name was printed on a letter that the Rebbe signed. So that's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. People always want to know, you have personal experience with the Rebbe, personal. That's personal, but it's personal because the Rebbe didn't see me at that point, but it's personal because I got that bracha, personal connection. So that's worthwhile. There were other times, I don't know if I told this in an early episode. If it was way back, and we probably have new viewers. But, my Rachel went to Pittsburgh for one of her sister shluchais, not her sister biological, but spiritual, the same, his sister in arms. And she drove back, and she was driving herself, and she had enough time to listen to 5 episodes of the Pos-cast. So we got to, we can't repeat because people are going into the archives and listening. But there were other times that I went to the Rebbe with my father. He should be well and live long. I always credit my father for all the good things he did for me, which are too numerous to count, to list. But taking me to the Rebbe, ones are most in my mind. I just remember that. I remember like there was in those early years when I was, in the 60s, things weren't so organized. Like it was a smaller crowd, but also less organized. So when we waited in line to get something from the Rebbe, there was a lot of pushing. And so I remember I remember coming into the small room outside the Rebbe's room. There was a doorway. So people were basically jamming through a doorway. And it was pushy. And so my father pushed me ahead of him. But behind him, there was a friend of mine, his father, of blessed memory. His name was Katlowitz. Levi Katlowitz was my classmate, and his father was a big guy. So he stood in the doorway and literally blocked the doorway so no one could go in. I just still remember looking back and saying, that's why I'm safe, because Mr. Katlowitz is blocking the people from getting in. But those things with my father, we lived in Borough Park, so to get to Crown Heights, we'd either have to walk on Shabbos, or we would take my grandfather had a car. We didn't own a car. My father would see if my grandfather needed the car that night. If he didn't, we would borrow the car and we would drive to Crown Heights. Otherwise, we take the subway. And I still remember those. Going there on the subway was you go on the subway. Took the B train to Atlantic Avenue or to Pacific, changed to Atlantic, took the 2 or the 3 in those days. I think it was the 2, and you got there. But the way home, you're getting on the subway like 12:30 at night, and I'm 10, 11, 12, whatever, how old I was, and it's cold, and I'm tired, and like standing there looking down the tunnel. When is the train coming? And there aren't many people there. And trust me, those days the trains were very safe. There was no police, nothing like that. It's pretty much empty platform. But those are the memories. That's what made the Rebbe's Farbrengens to me so precious. The fact that I had schlepped there and gone there and didn't understand much Rebbe was talking about, but knew that this is amazing, this is important. And all those times of getting Kaishel Bracha with the Rebbe distributed wine after Farbrengens that ended on Yontif when the Rebbe would wash and then would bench over a cup of wine, make Havdalah, and then distribute the wine. Those were special times that made that connection, which of course later on that connection went beyond the physical connections, just seeing and receiving, but studying and thinking and behaving in the manner that the Rebbe wanted us to do. So the only time I went into the Rebbe's room privately was my 14th birthday, because then people wanted to go have a private audience with the Rebbe, but they couldn't, because you can't just walk in. You can't just knock on the Rebbe's door and walk in like you go to the rabbi's office, knock on the door. Couldn't happen that way because there were so many people that wanted the Rebbe's time. So there had to be an appointment, and so people had something specific to discuss with the Rebbe. Sometimes they would tell the secretary, I have an issue when I need to discuss with the Rebbe. I'd say, fine. It wasn't like you had to be somebody special to get an appointment, but it was just a matter of when it would be scheduled. Anybody that wanted, I think anybody that wanted was able to go in to see with the Rebbe. But for Chassidim, they knew that you couldn't just wander into the Rebbe's room whenever anytime they wanted. You had to have an appointment and a reason. Why do you want to go see the Rebbe? So one of the reasons was to go for your birthday. The problem, quote unquote, is that my father's birthday is Yud Alf Nisan, the 11th day of Nisan. Well, whose birthday is the 11th day of Nisan? The Rebbe's birthday. Also 3 days before Pesach. So of course the Rebbe is very busy before Pesach. Maybe he's not physically cleaning his room, but spiritual cleaning and all the other stuff, sending letters and he was busy distributing matzah. There was a lot of things going on. So it was very difficult to go in for his birthday. So other occasions would come up. For example, any one of my brother's bar mitzvah or getting married, we'd go into the Yechidus, into the Rebbe's room. So I went in I do remember distinctly going a couple of times when my older brother had a bar mitzvah, the whole family would go in. That was a family Yechidus. At that time, the Rebbe didn't really say, I didn't have any direct interaction with the Rebbe, but it was there. I don't really remember those very clearly because I was young. My bar mitzvah, I remember. And I think I've told this, but I'm going to repeat it again because this is it's like on your birthday. You tell stories that happened last year. You tell them again and again and again because this is important. So we went in, and my grandfather, my mother's father, who was not a chassid, he was from Germany. When he came into the Rebbe's room, the Rebbe half stood up, and the Rebbe gave him his hand to say Shalom Aleichem, which was very unusual because the Rebbe wouldn't offer his hand to a chassid, and a chassid would never offer his hand to the Rebbe. If you ever watch the Dollar Line, nobody shakes. The only people that ever shake the Rebbe's hand are not chassidim. The Rebbe said to my grandfather in Yiddish, "This is the first time you're coming. The first time we meet." My grandfather, not being a chassid, being a very polite and amazing person, a big Torah, my memories of him is studying Torah and just his kindness, said to the Rebbe gently, we met at the wedding, meaning my parents' wedding, right? Because the Rebbe was the one who officiated my parents' wedding. It was the first wedding after the Rebbe became Rebbe, Rosh Chodesh Adar. In a month and a bit will be the anniversary. So the Rebbe said back, also without hesitating, that when you don't see somebody for a year, you say a Shechiyanu. So it's like a new thing. Now, I had learned the Shulchan Aruch, and I was like, if I remember correctly, and I checked this up, and you can look it up, it says you don't see a person, it has to be a person you care about, by the way. You say Shechiyanu after a month. A person that you haven't seen for a year, and we spoke about this a couple weeks ago, you say Mechayam Eitzim, but then the Rebbe didn't say that, of course, because, okay. So then after that, the way it worked was the Rebbe would ask the bar mitzvah boy if he studied anything. And so I remember as I was putting on my brand new white shirt at home, my father is prompting me in Yiddish, because you got to quote the Rebbe in Yiddish. Hast du etwas zugegrät for the bar mitzvah? Did you prepare something to our mitzvah? Yeah. A maimer und a pilpul, which means a Hasidic discourse and a discussion about halacha on the Gemara or something. And then what's the shaila, what's the answer, what's the question, what's the answer. So I had it all down pat. So the Rebbe asked me, did you prepare? And the way the Rebbe would do it, he'd be looking at the note that you wrote, and he had a pencil, and he was making underline certain things. I can't tell you what exactly was going on there. And so the Rebbe was looking down, and he talks, and he says, did you prepare something? He says, yes. Pilpul, Maimer Pilpul. What's the Pilpul about? It's about time-bound mitzvahs that women are not obligated, and about, it was my parsha this week, Parsha Ve'er, when the Jews beginning of coming out of Egypt. Why women have to have a matzah on Pesach if they're not obligated in time-bound mitzvahs? And the answer is because they were also saved from Mitzrayim. They're also part of it. Okay. So there's a question and answer, and I was ready. I figured I told the question. I was ready, Rebbe, to ask me what the answer is. He says, how do you know, from where do we know that women are not obligated in time-bound mitzvahs? No one ever told me.
No.
So I look at my father, just like, what am I supposed to do? I don't know what my father was thinking. I never asked him. He probably was also slightly aghast. But he said, like, tell the Rebbe, you don't know. He didn't say it, but I got the look in his thing. Like, so I said, ich weiß nicht. I don't know. And then the Rebbe gave me a bracha, and that was it. And then once he finished the bracha, he looks up, which signaled that the Yechidus was over. I believe, if my memory is correct, that my grandmother, the one whose yahrzeit was on Sunday, went into Yechidus with us. And Rabbi Groner warned her, don't ask anything of the Rebbe. Don't talk. You're going in for the bar mitzvah, because there was a long line of people. And, the Rebbe's Yechidus would start at 8 o'clock at night and it could go to 6 o'clock in the morning. So he wanted to make sure that people didn't use the time for things they hadn't agreed upon. So he warned her, don't. And nonetheless, they were having some kind of event in Pittsburgh. She wanted the Rebbe's bracha. So she started talking to the Rebbe about that. And we started receiving, walking back out of the room. When it came out of the room, my mother, God bless her soul, who was an amazing mother, noticed that I was upset. I blew it. The Rebbe asked the question, you don't know the answer. So she looks at me and says, don't worry. He did that to all of your brothers. He asked them questions until they didn't know, which I now in retrospect I understand it. You don't just ask questions that soft questions. Motivate the kids, go learn more. I got that, and the Rebbe didn't say anything afterwards. He just gave the bracha. So of course I ran home and found the Gemara in Kedushin. I think it's page 34, where it says in the Shema, "V'shanamtem levanecha v'dibarta bam." You should teach it to your levanecha, means your sons. Then it says ukshartem leisei yodecha. You should bind it for a sign on your hand. And so, since it says by Torah that you should teach it to your sons, and that's written right next to the mitzvah of tefillin, and tefillin is a time-bound mitzvah. whether or not you don't put it on night or not is secondary, but you don't put tefillin on Shabbos and Yom Tov. So since it says you should teach Torah to your sons, and it says put on tefillin, so just tefillin is a time-bound mitzvah, so only boys are obligated, not women. Okay, the Gemara goes on and has all kinds of questions, but that's pretty much it. Anyway, that was my entrance into the Rebbe's room when I was 13. Now, in those days, you could go into Yechidus when you were 14, at your birthday. It was the last year, by the way. That next year, on Simchas Torah, I believe it was, the Rebbe said, I'm going to give a bracha for all those people who have birthdays. Give it in the beginning of the year for everybody. So people don't have to come in privately, personally. Again, a time thing, it was just too many, it was overwhelming. But so when I prepared for that as well, and now I'm walking alone. I can't even remember the feelings I had then. I must have been nervous, that much I know, but I can't like pinpoint at a certain thing. So you had to get reviewed, tested by your teachers in yeshiva, and they would give a sealed letter envelope. You have to give that to the Rebbe, plus your own note that you wrote, just telling the Rebbe what the occasion was, your birthday, if you had anything personal to ask the Rebbe. And I had to get to Crown Heights on my own. That was also an adventure. I met my older brother, who's in Chicago now, in Skokie. I'll be with him here to Hashem Wednesday night. And he was in a big base of Medrash. In my mind, it was big. Probably now it's wasn't that big, probably 100 guys. And he said, you come there after you finish yeshiva, you'll come to Crown Heights. I was then wearing my Shabbos suit, white shirt, Shabbos suit, hat, whole thing. And we'll learn a little Chassidus. Then you'll write your note, and then you go to the Rebbe. You go to 7-7. You have to be there at 8:00. So I said, how am I going to find you? I was so nervous, walking to this place where these older guys were, 19, 20 years old. He said, I told him exactly where he sits. I walked in. He found me. We learned. He walked me over to 7-7. Then he said to me, when you go into the Rebbe's room, it's not a museum. Don't just look around. Focus on the Rebbe. So I walked in. I had no idea what the room looks like from that visit, because I was looking. And I gave it to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe read it same way. Gave me a bracha, for learning and davening. And specifically, I remember your parents should have nachas from you. And then I walked out. And he said, when you get out, write down exactly what the bracha is, because you're going to forget. I did that. I wrote down exactly what he told me and what the Rebbe told me. And that was my yichidus then. So these were events in my life that formed my connection to the Rebbe, the yichidus, the walking to Crown Heights for the Fabrengens, and then as we get older, to be able to understand what the Rebbe stood for. And till today, this is the greatest blessing in my life, is to have that unique connection with the Rebbe and the Chassidus. And as I look around the world and I see what other people have, which is good, but this is amazing. Everything is there, even in the current situation, the world now. Look at the Rebbe's talks, and there's direct guidance about what's going on there. And so I was thinking about life lessons, and what came across to my mind was, it depends how you look at life. That's all it is. And I can say that without any bias, my life has been amazing. Not perfect, but amazing. The things that I have. My grandparents, each one of them in their own was a pillar. My mother, blessed memory, and my father, sein gesund, were the things they taught me, and they were just amazing. And my family now, of course, my wife, children, I thought, every one of my children is a blessing. It's amazing. And the people they married, and God willing, the ones who aren't married will marry. And then you get the gems. The gems, it's like you have a tree. The tree trunk has the roots, that's your grandparents, your parents. Then comes the trunk, it's you and your spouse. Then the branches. The branches are your children. Then those are little fruit that are hanging over there, right? Those are the most precious things that there are. Everything's important. Those are the grandchildren. Amazing, just amazing. So we're very blessed, and I realize that. And the one thing that I still work on is to be always to accept everything as being good. We have that principle in Judaism. All that Hashem does is for good. The story with Rabbi Akiva when he was traveling with his donkey, and the rooster and the candle, and all them blew out, got killed, got eaten, and he was that everything. And it ended up that he couldn't go into the town because he had to stay in the forest, and the town was attacked, and he was safe in the forest. Oh, Nachamish Gamzu. This also is for the good. When they exchanged the chest, they were bringing to the king to know some kind of decree of the king, and they had a chest full of diamonds, and they stayed over in the inn. He filled it up with earth. They brought the earth. He said, it's all good, it's all good, it's all good. Give it to the king, it's all good. King saw a chest full of earth, threw him into prison. Then one of his wives said, they're not crazy, the Jews. Avram used earth and threw it at his enemies. Avram Avinu, Abraham, our patriarch, threw it at his enemies and turned into bows and arrows. Go use it for war, and it worked. It's Gamzul Taiva. That whole concept and the whole idea of B'tachan and Hashem, that everything is good, everything's for the best. But it is, you see that in life. Nothing, if you have that attitude, you should never get down. Nothing should bring you down. Always, but it's so difficult because at the moment, a small thing like, the light on your dashboard is on, the tire, the this, the that, like, man. And you're able to focus. And then comes bigger things that you really can feel like, this is a problem. Whether it's something personal happens to you or interpersonal with other people. Why did that person say that? Why did the person say this? All these things, be able to actually look at them and say, it's all for good. Just calm down. And one of the things that I find is that when you put things in context of your whole life, like what happened this week besides that tire light, what else is going on? There's so much good, there's so much positivity, and to be able to keep that upbeat attitude. So this is what I'm trying to focus on my birthday today. And I give everybody the best blessings for all things material and spiritual. And being everything for the good doesn't mean you're satisfied. You always want to improve and do better and do more. So we thank Hashem for everything He's done for us. It's incredible. And we ask Hashem to do just a little bit more. Push us over the edge, out of the darkness of exile, into the brilliant light of redemption with Mashiach and all of our loved ones, with the Rebbe, grandparents, parents, everybody, and we'll have the true celebration.
Amen. What an episode. What an episode. My goodness. If you at any point weren't interested in what was going on, I don't know what to say for you, because granted, I could sit here and talk to the rabbi all day, but I don't know if there's been an episode where I was more locked into what was going on than for the last 36 minutes.
That's not so long. Anyway, if anybody's here, if by any chance anybody's hearing this, it's like 7 o'clock now. In the next 2 hours, you have till 9 o'clock. Find it on Instagram, on my status. There's a Farbrengen tonight. The only thing is, if you check in, I will not be able to repeat what I said tonight on this Pos-cast. But we'll put a few more details in, spice it up. Anyway, best wishes to everybody. Mashiach now.
Amen. See you next week, everybody.